Okay, Guten Erev Shabbos, everybody. Not quite sure what I'm going to talk about. I got a lot on my mind. I think I want to start off discussing something I heard. I was discussing with my boss this morning, and just give you a insight into our discussion that we had today. This morning, he was asking me what I thought about what was going on in Iran, and I quoted two sources that came up to me. One is Dennis Prager, and one is a YouTube channel called Blue Collar Logic. Great channel, brilliant channel, really. Worthwhile checking out. And on the Blue Collar Logic channel, he compared. He made a parable about like the cool kid in school telling the punks that they're not welcome at any parties until they clean up their act. And then the punks do some bad stuff, and then whatever, they knock over the cool kid's bike or something. I don't know, the whole whatever it is. I wasn't really a party going guy in school. I would go to religious parties. Even those I usually didn't like to go to unless it was very precise, like an actual Hasidic Tish I really enjoyed. Other than that, which was more of a spirit of reverence, it was never really a party dude. But we we'll go back to this. He was saying how wise it was for President Trump to give some space for the Iranians to back off and so forth. And then my boss asked, well, but what about the people in the Ukrainian flight? Are we responsible for that? I don't think we are. It was the Iranians who pulled the trigger on that. If that's what happened, we don't know what happened. And then the other issue that we had was, he asked, are people just naturally hateful and so forth? And that's when I brought up Dennis Prager. He had an issue where he was being criticized by Newsweek. Newsweek claimed that he ridiculed Anne Frank. And he said, Anne Frank very famously said that she believes there's good in everybody, even in the Nazi, and that people are basically good. And it's certainly tempting to believe that, to want to believe that. There's certainly something in my heart that would lend me to want to believe that, but Dennis Prager wisely pointed out that that's, it's not true, and it's foolish, and you have to, and you shouldn't be getting wisdom from a 16-year-old girl. Or a 16-year-old boy, for that matter. I'm not being misogynistic here. And he pointed out, like we mentioned this earlier, he learned wisdom when he was in third grade, because he went to yeshiva and he was learning wisdom from his elders and from the past, and not not just this what like what we're talking about, like we're this Greta Thunberg syndrome, where it's like, oh, this is who the left looks up to is a teenage girl. And the president said she has anger problems and she should work on them, and he was right. But the thing is like we have to teach our kids to be good. Kids are not naturally good. They're not naturally bad either, but they always say, you always hear people say, oh, children need to be taught to hate. If they otherwise they wouldn't hate, and we shouldn't teach them to hate. And it's not true. There's natural hatred, there's natural evil in people. I mean, in our tradition, we say that a child doesn't even have a Yetzer Tov. And that was always difficult for me to understand. But like, a child is pure Yetzer Hara. It's pretty much, a child lives by the evil inclination. And until your bar mitzvah, you don't have a Yetzer Tov. You only have Yetzer Hara. You only have the evil inclination. You don't have the good inclination until you reach adulthood. I saw something today on the internet, because I was looking up there's a very interesting Rabbeinu Ephraim, who's one of the Bali Tosfos, and he pretty much says from this week's Sedra that Binyamin was a werewolf. And so someone wrote an article about that, and they cited a TV show, 30 Rock, and they had a very brief joke, werewolf bar mitzvah. And they said boys turning into men and men turning into wolves at the werewolf bar mitzvah. So, the truth is that the bar mitzvah is when you become a man and you start to have a Yetzer Tov. You start to think about someone other than yourself. And I don't know which causes which. Is it starting to think about others? Is that what makes you a man, or is it becoming a man that makes you start thinking about others? Or is it a little bit of both? But I was talking about, we have this society, and even someone mentioned it today on Dennis Prager's show, which is why I felt like talking about it. They had a chassid. He grew up in Lubavitcher Chassid, Crown Heights, became more modern, and now he's a chassid a little bit older. Although, to be honest, in Crown Heights, the chassanim tend to be a little bit older anyway. It's not like how it is in Williamsburg. And his charata and his tshuva for how much time he wasted watching TV and playing video games, and what it means to grow up, and how a lot of people, they want to wait until they are financially stable until they get married. But then he said the truth is it's the other way around. When you get married, it forces you to be financially stable. And otherwise, if you're single and you're 25 years old, you're going to waste your money on video games and with nonsense, and he just, he wants to grow up. And the thing is, it's nothing wrong for a 5-year-old kid to play video games, but there's nothing wrong for a 25-year-old once in a while to play a video game. They need to relax a little bit. The thing is, you can get a lot of free video games on your phone. You don't need to spend a lot of money on video games. But I know people who are very strict. They would never touch a video game, and people who are computer people. I had a Rebbe from yeshiva who was both. He taught both in my high school and in my college. I never had him in either, as far as I can remember. And he told. I didn't hear it from him. I heard it, Cliche. I heard it secondhand from one of his students. He said, he never. He was taught computers both in the high school and in the college, but he also was a Rebbe in the high school. And he said he never in his life played a video game, even though he was a computer guy. Never played a video game in his life. I'm not that holy. I enjoy video games. Sometimes play them here. But, how do we deal with these things? How do we, and I said to my supervisor, I work in a prison. And so I was talking to the deputy, second from the top, pretty much, second in command after the superintendent. That's what we call our warden. And he and I said to him, that's the problem. We look at our men who are locked up here. We have 1,400 boys who never grew up. They might be 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, or they might be younger, but they have the Peter Pan syndrome. They never grew up. And it's and that's why they did what they did, because they never got taught how to be a man, how to be an adult. I don't know if I know it. I still feel like I'm, that I gotta grow up. And I recognize that I gotta grow up, Why am I making YouTube videos? I have this column that I'm gonna make money on YouTube videos. I used to get a little bit of money here and there from the YouTube videos, but I haven't in a while. Oh, let me just say hi to my wife, who's here at the post office. All right, we'll see you later. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe.